Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. Back with some more vibes for all you. I'm Mr. Giant, and I hope you guys. I can't speak enough about figuring out all this stuff here. This is kind of cool. You know what I mean? And Ting. I'm gonna put some stuff on the wall though. I'd say drop some suggestions, but I'll figure something out. Yeah. I'm having fun with this. But anyway, we're going to go into another video here. And this is the 5th installment of the 30 Years War. And this is called Chain the Dragon. Extra history is at it again. Thank you all for suggesting all these videos for me to watch. You know what I mean? Like the video, dislike the video, comment. Drop more stuff you want me to watch. You know what I mean? And I want to learn as much as I can. And hopefully some people learn along with us, Each one gotta teach one. That's the way it should be. That was a song. That was a reggae song. Was that Jimmy Cliff that sang that? I don't remember, but that was the lyrics in one of my reggae songs I used to listen to a long time ago. But anyway, let's get into this video, okay? Let's YouTube and simmer.
1643, Westphalia. Representatives gather. Diplomats of the Holy Roman Empire, of Sweden and Denmark, of Bavaria and Brandenburg. After years of negotiation, political and religious argument, and bartering, they finally seek to end the most destructive war Europe has ever seen. A war that through plague, massacre, and famine has almost become a force in itself. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the keys of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold of the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up. And a seal set upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, when he would be unleashed again.
No, I'm thinking that they're taking this the prologue or the prelude to the video from the Bible. Obviously, because it's a religious sort of vibe going on here with the wars and stuff like that, or the use of religion to further the war effort and everything like that. But I like how they use that to set up the whole story. You know what I'm saying? Well, the whole history of things that happened.
Thanks so much to HelloFresh for helping to bring this episode to the table. A kingdom shattered, millions dead, and an endless conflict draining the finances and manpower of all who took part. How to put the demon back in the bottle. As long as the 30 Years' War remained a conflict centered on religion, it was a difficult thing to resolve. After all, the parties believed that as far as spiritual matters were concerned, there was an immutable right and wrong. Orthodoxy and heresy with little room for accommodation. Even those who fought primarily for money or power had to cloak their motives in religion, making political compromise difficult, especially when external forces like the Catholic Church or larger Protestant neighborhoods had their say. But
See, that's the evil of using religion or people's spiritual beliefs to prove something. You get the people behind you, but then once the people believe, it's hard to reverse it. And it's quite possible human suffering might reverse it, because people are going to go, wait a minute now, but the Bible says thou shalt not kill, or, the Bible says love thy neighbor. Somebody might come along and say that, and if they're war-weary, then they might go, that's right. I mean, even today, for the simplest things, like not wanting to get the medicine for the pandemic, people use the Bible. I get into discussions with this person I work with, and whenever I give scientific evidence for something, and she realized she doesn't have a comeback to it, on any topic at all, it's in God's hands. You know what I mean? And the Bible and my belief says, one of the things is that she refused to take the vaccination. But, I don't care if she takes it or not, but because I took mine, she keeps coming at me with it all the time. And I'm thinking, if you're not going to take it, just don't take it. That's not my, you should. And then that's when I gave her some scientific facts, and then she said, you know, that is in God's hands, and the Bible said this and that. I said, but the Bible said, thou shalt not kill. If you're carrying around this thing and you're infecting other people, you're killing people. So you're breaking the rule, you know what I mean? And of course, it's kind of a vague comparison, but it's still make it go, huh, never thought about that. God, I hate to say it this way, but where I am, and I don't know how it is where you all are in the rest of the world, but if it's the same, let me know. Where I am, it seems like the people who didn't take the time to understand science, to even understand politics, those are the ones that are more vehement about it. And they want you to think that the decision isn't political, but this particular lady I'm talking to, her husband got it. And he voted for the same person that she voted for. But he's like, I'm getting it. And she's fighting it all the way. Got like 5 grandchildren. But, and that just shows, when somebody believes something spiritually, because she brings that up all the time, it's in God's hands, and always like that. When it's your time, God will take you. She's using that argument all the time. It's really hard to let people know, hey, because when I was raised, it's like whatever smarts you have, we believe is gifts from God. And that's what I was taught. But they believe it's gift from political sides or something like that. It's really complicated and really quite dumbfounded to think. But anyway, and that's just proving it's hard to make somebody understand something when they believe like something that's really, really religious. They'll do anything, jeopardize their own life plus the life of others. I'm talking too much. Let's keep going here. Let's see what this 30 years war is bringing up.
Neighborhoods had their say, but nearly 2 decades into the conflict, that started to break down. In 1634, representatives of Emperor Ferdinand and the Protestant state of Saxony met at Prague Castle to try and resolve the religious and political questions that had originally torn apart the Holy Roman Empire. And they actually hammered out a deal most imperial states could accept. Emperor Ferdinand agreed to walk back his counter-reformation campaign, where he tried to stamp out Lutheranism and restore the religious path as it had been at the Peace of Augsburg. Saxony, in turn, agreed that its army would be part of the larger army of the empire, and that it would no longer make formal alliances with other states of the empire or outside powers. There was also an amnesty for everyone who'd fought against the emperor, apart from the heirs of the now dead Frederick V. It was a reasonable peace, and other states of the empire joined in when the agreement went into force in 1635. However, there was a place where it didn't play well: France. Though Catholic and hostile to Protestants within France, King Louis XIII was an avowed enemy of the Habsburgs, and he feared being encircled by Spanish Habsburg territory in Spain, Italy, and the separate Habsburg branch ruling the Holy Roman Empire. And really, a strengthened Holy Roman Empire on his eastern border wasn't really what he wanted to see. So in 1635, he instructed his chief minister, Cardinal Richelieu, to enter the war on the side of the Protestants and attack Spain. It was a move that changed the entire nature of the war, turning a conflict of Protestant and Catholic states into one of pro- and anti-Habsburg factions. And with Spain tied down and the prospect of Protestant victory renewed, Sweden took the opportunity to jump back.
Everybody jumping in, jumping out.
There was an end goal in sight: grab enough territory to come to the negotiating table, and hopefully build on the Peace of Prague in order to achieve political goals. The tide swung in the anti-Habsburg faction's favor in 1640, and in 1641, Cardinal Richelieu was entertaining Habsburg envoys who tried to make a separate peace with France, but Richelieu insisted that all the allies must come to peace at the same time. And after a bit of wrangling, they decided on a place: the state of Westphalia. There they declared that 2 cities were to be exempt from the raging war to serve as negotiating centers: the Lutheran-controlled city of Münster and the universally Catholic Osnabrück, where they started to work on a treaty that would reshape Europe, even as the war continued to rage around them. But don't start imagining the United Nations here. Like with everybody in the same big room. This is still the 17th century, after all, where communications and travel are incredibly slow, people get sick, and ambassadors have to wait for orders. The first delegations arrived in 1643, and various ambassadors from major nations like France, Sweden, Denmark, and Spain, plus representatives of small states in the Holy Roman Empire, just sort of filtered through for the next 6 years, trying to create a compromise everyone would accept. There were even
6 years.
Spain and the Dutch Republic, for instance, ended the 80 Years' War, which had merged with the 30 Years' War, with Spain formally recognizing Dutch independence, but also winning religious tolerance for Dutch Catholics. And those...
No wonder why people think we're a warlike, and it's in man's nature to act like that. It's not in man's nature to act like that. Come on. 30-year war, 80-year war. Man. War. What is going on?
Same questions about religion fed into the other treaties made at Westphalia, ending the 30 Years' War. The agreement went by one simple principle. Who rules his religion? No, you heard me right. After millions dead and decades of compounding misery, we are right back at the Peace of Augsburg. Glad we all did that, right, everybody? Okay, to be fair, there were a few key differences. Now, in addition to Catholic or Lutheran, rulers could choose to be Calvinist, and members of minority religions were free to practice in private or even in public during certain times allowed by the state.
Wow.
Hereditary Habsburg lands were exempt, however, they would be Catholic. But there were two even more difficult questions. How would the Holy Roman Empire's constitution change? And who would get the land that had changed hands? And here's where the war comes into the picture. Because as the negotiations dragged on, the war tilted in favor of the anti-Habsburg faction. By 1648, Protestant armies were marching back into Prague Castle, marking the last major battle of the war and leaving the Imperial Spanish faction not much to negotiate with. Ferdinand III, son of the now dead Ferdinand II, was forced to give up much of the centralized power his father had seized, strengthening the German states and keeping the empire fragmented and difficult to control. A major foreign policy win for France. Plus, individual states of the empire could make treaties with each other, and France and Sweden now served as guarantor of the empire's constitution. Meaning, if Frederick tried to pull what his father had by shifting electoral votes, Sweden and France would invade the empire. And then came the land. That was the stickiest part, because as you'll recall, both Catholic and Protestant factions had started rewarding generals and sometimes troops with land. Unsurprisingly, these folks didn't want to give it up.
No.
But in the end, secular lands went back to who'd owned them in 1618, and church lands went to whoever owned it in 1624. So, Ferdinand got to keep Bohemia as part of his family lands, even though a Protestant army had just marched into it. But there were territorial changes, mostly favoring the anti-Habsburg faction. Sweden got territory that helped it control the Baltic Sea and major rivers. France got Alsace and areas it had taken a century earlier, but were now formally recognized. The Protestant state of Brandenburg got bigger and more powerful, as did the southern Catholic state of Bavaria, which kept the Upper Palatinate. The Lower Palatinate, that went back to Frederick V's son. It was a peace that hobbled the possibility of German unification for another 2 centuries, and set Brandenburg, later known as Prussia, and Bavaria on a course to be Germany's dominant power players. The empire's center of rule shifted to Vienna, and with its new territory, France could threaten invasion whenever it wished. But while it's true that the treaty was trying to constrain Habsburg power, one has to be a little careful how you discuss the Peace of Westphalia. Later German nationalists, from Bismarck to the Nazis, would cast the treaty as part of a narrative of victimization,
Bismarck.
meaning that the rest of Europe was trying to keep the German nation and its people down. But in reality, no single sense of nationhood or commonality existed at the time. After all, this had been a civil war. And speaking of later interpretations, looking back, Westphalia was also a landmark because it set some precedent for the idea of state sovereignty. The concept that a government controlling a piece of territory should be free to govern that area and its people as it sees fit, without interference from other states. In fact, the Treaty of Westphalia has often been cited as a step toward the international order we have now, where secular authority supersedes religious power, countries control all within their borders, and diplomacy is conducted via a sole designated official. And not by a horde of nobles that throw someone out a window. Step in the right direction. Now, of course, exactly how big a step it was toward our modern world is still debated by historians. But at the time, one thing was certain. The Peace of Westphalia had stopped one of the most terrible wars Europe would ever witness. And though there would be more conflicts, it would not be until 1914, when a very different Europe, one with Germany, rather than the Holy Roman Empire at its center, would see the four horsemen ride again.
History repeating itself. We tend to let that happen a lot. But, the one war centered around the Holy Roman Empire, then centered around Germany, according to what they just said there, man. Thank you all for watching this with me. Link is in the description. Check out Extra Credit, man. They got some good stuff going on over there at TIG, you know what I mean? And once again, thank you all for commenting. I like reading y'all's comments and stuff like that, whether it be positive or negative. Most of them are positive comments. Thank you for that. And even so, the negative comments make me think and sometimes rethink how I look at things. It's all about making one a better person. I don't always have to agree, but a different perspective is always good to set an even keel for the way one thinks. So what is life if you don't, adjust the things if the things aren't detrimental to humankind? Or if it's a way of understanding somebody else. You know what I mean? Because you have to understand somebody for you to get along with them. And sometimes you understand them and you still don't get along. But that's all right too. But you having a healthy understanding of somebody will make you have a little bit more respect for them. At least that's how I live my life. Anyway, thank you all for watching this with me. Hope you guys are having a good week and take it with me. I'm having an alright week. I'm having an alright week because I'm playing around so much with all this different stuff I'm doing, which is fun. But I hope you guys are enjoying what you're doing too, alright? Remember, go out, get to know a stranger, understand a stranger, and take care of each other, okay? Cool runnings.